This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Agon Erev Yom Tov, a Gemar Chasima Tova to everyone. Tfilas Neilah, the highlight tefillah of the whole year. Who composed Tfilas Neilah? Avraham Mesakein Shachris, Yitzchak Mesakein Mincha, Yaakov Mesakein Marev. The Chida even brings down that Rachel Imenu was Mesakein Musaf of Rosh Chodesh. Rashi Chadashim La'amcha Nosata Rashi Tevois Rachel. Who is Mesakein Neilah? I found an amazing comment of the Chasam Sofer, based on a comment of his Rabbi, the Panam Yafis, the Hafla in Parshas Va'aschanan. We know Moshe Rabbeinu, the decree was on Moshe Rabbeinu not to go into Eretz Yisrael because of the Ched of Mei Meriva. Now, when was the Ched of Mei Meriva? It was after the death of Miriam, when the water stopped flowing, when the Be'er stopped. So the Hafla has a cheshbon that from Yud Nisan, from the Batira of Miriam, until from the Batira of Miriam and the water stopped flowing, Moshe Rabbeinu davened 3 times a day. And those tefillos concluded, the 515 tefillos of Moshe concluded around Elul, around Tishrei time. And the Hafla doesn't add further insight. In fact, the Chasam Sofer, in his drashos of Zayin Av, in the year Tavkov Pei Zayin, 1827, he makes a cheshbon that the 515 tefillos ended on the second day of Sukkot. However, if you look in the Chasam Sofer, in his drashos for Zayin Av Tavkov Tzadi Gimel, that's 1833, the Chasam Sofer says a davar nifla ad ma'od, that if Moshe Rabbeinu was not allowed into Eretz Yisrael because of the Ched of Mei Meriva, that happened in the aftermath of the P'tira of Miriam. Miriam was niftar on Yud Nisan, but probably, in all probability, the Be'er continued for her Zayin Yemei Avelos, and therefore it ceased on Tes Zayin Nisan. Chasam Sofer makes a cheshbon. If you count 3 tefillos a day, without Musaf, because the Chasam Sofer brings that Tfilas Musaf is only Sipurei Maseh of the Karbanos, like Rashi says in the first parak of Avodah Zarah. If you make a cheshbon, the 514th tefillah ceased on Mincha of Yom HaKippurim. And the 515th tefillah that Moshe composed, but it seems like perhaps he didn't say it, was Tfilas Neilah. Moshe was Mesakein Neilah. Why was he Mesakein Neilah? To be able to enter Eretz Yisrael. And we know if Moshe would have entered Eretz Yisrael, then Mashiach would have come. The Tikkun HaAchron would have come. Tfilas Neilah was composed by Moshe, Ebra na ve'eres ha'aretz ha'tova hazeh. Moshe Rabbeinu was Mesakein Neilah to be able to enter Eretz Yisrael and bring Mashiach Tzidkenu. Avraham Mesakein Shachris, Yitzchak Mesakein Mincha, Yaakov Mesakein Arvis, Rachel Mesakein Musaf Shel Rosh Chodesh, Moshe Rabbeinu Tikein Neilah. And why was Moshe Rabbeinu Mesakein Neilah? To be able to enter Eretz Yisrael and bring Mashiach. This should cause us to refocus our emphasis of what are we davening for in Neilah. Yes, we're davening for our lives, Chasmeinu l'chaim tovim, and we're mispalo for kapara, for mechila, for slicha. However, the Chida writes that the Ikar Tshuva during these Yomim is to be Mesakein the Churban Beis HaMikdash, and therefore our aspiration is not just for our personal success, health and happiness. Our aspiration is Ebra na ve'eretz ha'aretz ha'tova hazeh, to be able to enter Eretz Yisrael, to be able to see the Mashiach, to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash, and that's what Neilah was enacted for. Perhaps we could suggest this tefillah of Moshe, of Neilah, is found in Parshas Va'aschanan. And what else do we have in Parshas Va'aschanan? Shema. Perhaps that's why Neilah ends. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. What else do we have in Va'aschanan? We have V'yadata ki Hashem Elokecha hu ho Elokim. So Neilah ends. Hashem hu ho Elokim, Hashem hu ho... 7 times Hashem Elokim, because it comes from the parsha of Parshas Neilah, Parshas Va'aschanan. Then we perhaps could suggest that why was Moshe Rabbeinu davening? Ba'ez hahi, at that time. Chasam Sofer points out, If it was Neilah, we understand why it was that time. Because the gates of Shemayim were closing. The gates of Shemayim that are open, Nasser Simei Tshuva, were closing. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, Ribbon Hashem, one more tefillah. Hashem said, no, Rav Lach, not right now, not right now. But Be'ezus Hashem, Klal Yisrael will say this tefillah. And one day I will answer them. And I will say, granted, you can now enter Eretz Yisroel, rebuild the Beis HaMikdash, B'bias Goel Tzedek. Rashi says, why did Moshe Rabbeinu daven ba'is hahi? He davened ba'is hahi after he conquered Eretz Sichain v'Oig. He thought the neder, that Hashem made a neder not to allow Moshe Rabbeinu into Eretz Yisroel, was permitted. It was mutter. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu all of a sudden think the neder was mutter? The Megala Amukos, I believe in the Oifen Hashlishi, suggests that because the neder was Aaron and Moshe won't enter Eretz Yisrael, and Aaron already died, so maybe neder Shabbatla Miksasai Batla Kulai, maybe since Aaron wasn't around anymore, maybe it didn't apply to him anymore. But can we suggest that why did Moshe Rabbeinu think the neder was batal? He dafka davened on Yom Kippur because he thought the neder was batal. Was it because of Kol Nidrei? Is perhaps the reason why we start Yom Kippur with Kol Nidrei is because we have this neder of HaKadosh Baruch Hu looming over us. The neder being that Rav Lach, don't say that tefillah, you cannot enter Eretz Yisrael. So we start with Kol Nidrei, as the passage of the Zohar says, we're being mater, so to speak, the neder of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What neder? The neder of don't say the 515th tefillah. Don't say Neilah. If you say Neilah, if your Neilah is the way it's supposed to be, this will be the key to unlock the ultimate Geula. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu answer our tefillah of Neilah, which, aside from all of our personal bakashos, the objective of Neilah is that we should be Zoicha Ebirana v'yares haaretz hatoiva asher be'iver hayarden hahar hatoiv hazeh v'halavanoin, says Rashi, v'halavanoin zu Beis HaMikdash. May we be Zoicha sheyibane v'mehira v'yameinu agmar chasima tova.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.